Should the Fetchlands be banned in the modern format? We're going to talk about that today because, oh my god, there is so much hype over this concept. So, yeah, we're talking the Fetchlands, things like Misty Rainforest, Polluted Delta, Scalding Tarn, Arid Mesa, Marsh Flats, all of them. You fetch, you pay 1 life, tutor a either basic land or shock land or tri-land onto the battlefield. We all know how strong it is. I'm not here to debate how powerful the ability is, because a single fetch land almost always gives you access to 5 mana. Like a single Misty Rainforest, for example, or any like a single blue source just needs to find a shock land of another color, like a steam. If you need a red source, you go get a steam vents. You need a white source, you go get the hollowed fountain, and so on. And now with the triomes, a little weird take. People think the triomes are broken, but they're not really. It's really the fetchlands are make the triomes broken. All you need to do is include like 1 or 2 triomes in your deck, and you have access to basically all the colors that you need for your deck. And I have a lot of takes on this. I think it's a bit weird that this came about. So, but why is everyone so hyped over this? Hyped over this concept? Well, a video created by Tolarian Community College. By the way, not his take, but went over five cards that should be banned from Modern, and very good ones. Went over like Wrenn and 6 to Fairy Time Raveler, so on. But the bombshell at number 1 were the Fetchlands. Now, we all know that everyone loves the Fetchlands. The main concern of the Fetchlands has been that they are too expensive. However, there is a... well, it wasn't technically his take. It was a take by a very good player, Titty Pills. It's not a new take. Back in 2014... something like 2013 to 2015, Wizards of the Coast polled the pros, asking them, what do you think you could do to the modern format? What would make it better? And they said, ban the Fetchlands. They said a long time ago, we gotta ban the Fetchlands. They waste time. The mana in Modern is already very good. They are unnecessary. But there's 2 problems. The first problem is that people love the Fetchlands. They love using the Fetchlands. They like how they fill the graveyard for Delirium and other graveyard strategies, for Delve, for example. They create that type of strategic nuance and gameplay. They help you shuffle away bad cards on top of your library. They help play around Blood Moon, so you can play a multicolor deck and not get completely crushed by that card. Blood Moon's still a good card, but you now actually have a little bit of an edge against those hate cards because you can fetch out a basic land. They've got a lot of strategic utility, not to mention... yeah, you can play 2-color, 3-color, 4-color, 5-color decks relatively easily with not too much downside. There is technically a downside. We're definitely going to go over that, but it's very popular. Now, why does Wizards of the Coast love the Fetchlands? Well, they can make them expensive. Simple as that. They just keep the price really high, keep the supply relatively low, not super low. Like if we look at, let's take a look at, say, Polluted Delta here. Polluted Delta sitting at like $42 right now from Cons of Tarkir. That's one of the more recent cards, one of the more recent Fetchlands. Let's look at Scalding Tarn, one of the most popular. What are the prices of Scalding Tarn? $32. So your mana base is going to cost you a few $100s probably if you are going to be playing with the Fetchlands. Let's see, Mr. DJ Longhair, thank you so much for this super chat. Good morning, staked for Vegas. All right, we're all getting ready for Vegas. And I'm not bringing any Fetchlands. Mind you, I'm sure someone out there is going to be like, Nikachu, of course you're going to support the Fetchlands. You play with the Fetchlands without actually knowing what I play. I'm a mono blue Merfolk player. I play with Ether Vial and basic islands. I don't use any Fetchlands at all, so... cut it out. Full disclaimer, I do not use Fetchlands. Boulder here with the super chat. People don't realize that fetches are a 2-in-1. Pay 1, get 1 mana and shuffle your deck, and this can be done whenever you want. Exactly. It can be done whenever you want. You don't have to shock yourself immediately. If you need the mana immediately that turn, you're going to shock yourself. Otherwise, if you put a Triome in play, it comes into play tapped. You can't use that mana on your turn. You have to wait. Leyline Binding makes fetches that much better. Yes, over time. Well, but the thing is, they didn't have to design cards like Leyline Binding like that. Like, that was completely unnecessary. And this card can still see like a lot of play in a lot of different formats. With you play a Triome and a dual land, and boom, Leyline Binding is basically online. Some pleb says, to be honest, the amount of complaining about the modern format overall just makes me not even want to play the game anymore. If every set has 3+ cards that people have problems with, just whiny. Honestly, some pleb, that's just the cost of playing a game. You know, there's going to be a community, and everyone has their own interests. No one wants their cards getting banned, but they want to ban other people's cards. People want cards to be cheap, not too expensive. So, I mean, it is just part of being part of the Magic community, I would say. So now getting... What purple?
In this image, clearly all these different colors.
Black. Black. Come on. Purple is a... color of Liliana the Veil. Color of Liliana the Veil. Alright, so I'm gonna have all my thoughts really scattered here. First things first, Modern is Modern because of the Fetchlands. Let's take a look at all the decks here. And Modern is, above and beyond, undisputably, the most popular competitive format in Magic the Gathering. Not Standard, not Pioneer, not Pauper, not even Legacy or Vintage. It is Modern. It is Modern. And yes, so some people will make the argument it's completely warped by the Fetchlands, which create these 5-color Indomitable Creativity decks, or the Murktide deck to help power out the Murktide Regent, create Delirium for Dragon Rage Channeler. Again, helping another 4 or 5-color Omnath deck, Rakdos Midrange. Again, you help, actually, I don't think they have Dragon Rage Channeler, but you help Kroxa. You can help Kroxa in that deck. 5-color Crashing Footfalls. Yeah, Amulet Titan doesn't use Fetchlands. For the 3-color Living End decks can take advantage of this. So, Fetchlands, some might say, oh, it warps the Modern metagame. No, Modern is just Modern because of Fetchlands and a bunch of other powerful cards. What is the point of a non-rotating format if we aren't playing with, like, one of the best cards that are available? If you don't like playing with Fetchlands, if you don't like the Fetchland gameplay, go play Pioneer! Go play that format, which has no Fetchlands, has no Blood Moon, has no Ensnaring Bridge, no Tron lands. The price of the format is so much cheaper, but it's way less popular. That's going to be the trade-off. It is way, way, way less popular. People want to play Modern because they love these cards. They like playing with Fetchlands. So while I think very good players have a very good argument against Fetchlands, just politically, they are very, very popular to most players. The average Modern player has $200 to $300 of Fetchlands. Banning them would be the quickest way to alienate the largest non-casual player base. Last of Us Chip says, Pioneer is for people who don't want to play with Fetchlands, or play against Tron, or play against Blood Moon, or play against anything powerful. Like, yes, we've got powerful cards in Modern, and we have powerful lands. And arguably, and I don't think a lot of people would disagree here, Fetchlands are the most powerful land in the game. They are the most powerful lands in the game. Let's put another one up here. Let's get Arid Mesa. Let's get the Arid Mesa up there. Oops, I don't think I spelled that correctly. They're better than the revised dual lands, because the revised dual land, okay, so you don't take any damage, but at the same time, it's only a 2-color land, and that's more or less on par with a lot of other lands in the game. However, a fetch land has way more utility than that, as I explained before. You get to manipulate the deck, so if you put anything on the bottom or the top, they get shuffled away. You can find basics, you can find dual lands, you can find 3-color lands. You can find cards that are technically the land, things like Mystic Sanctuary that end up getting banned, for example.
Here's
Oh god, no, we can't do that. Absolutely not. My brother's like, make the fetch land plus it can like add mana at the same time. They fix your mana and double trigger. Next it says modern would be fine without fetch lands, maybe slow formats, maybe slow format down a little. I don't know if it would work like that. Now, let's say you do ban the fetch lands. What is going to be like the best card in the format day one? Can anyone guess what the best day in the format would be? Yeah, my brother is here. My brother is here, hailing here from Daytona Beach, Florida. Oh yeah. Fujin, I think that the biggest issue in Modern is that they refuse to print land hate. Fetches only enable 5 color piles because running trams and shocks are basically free because they can't get removed. I actually think, I mean, to some extent that is true, but Wasteland is like a card of legacy. And Wasteland is a super feel-bad card. Let's get Wasteland on the screen here. Wasteland would fix everything, technically. But this would take a lot of the identity out of Modern, or sorry, away from Legacy and into Modern if they put Wasteland. It would this would be a very format warping card if they did. Modern is like a format of you can do whatever you want. You're gonna get your lands, and then okay, go at it. That's basically Modern. And the most aggressive land hate is basically Field of Ruin, where we're not going. We can take away maybe some utility from your lands if it's like a creature or a Tron land or something, but you're still going to have your colors available. You're still going to have your colors available if you want to. Trevor Peebles with the super chat. Good morning. As a lands matter player, fetch lands can get busted real quick. Counter with confounding conundrum. Well, they can play around it by fetching on the opponent's turn, right? The triumphs are the problem, not the fetch lands. I don't really believe in that opinion, to be honest. I mean, if you ban the fetch lands, the triumphs aren't going to do dink for the most part, and it'll be like a really clunky land to play with. El Grande Fetzo. Fetch lands, trim your deck, fix your mana. I think I read that one before. I think Modern would be different. If you want to ban fetch lands, play Pioneer, and if you want like that gameplay, go for it. Now, Pioneer could still use a few more fast lands to get to the mana base of Modern. Right now, the mana is very clunky. Not everyone can do what they want, but it is you sort of get the idea what you can do in Pioneer. Just print Blood Moon with split second. Okay, let's talk about Blood Moon. That's actually really important. If you ban fetch lands, I believe this card becomes one of the best cards in the format. It would wipe out like any 3-color deck. They become basically unplayable overnight. Because it is just damn near impossible to build a mana base beyond 2 colors that isn't going to get wiped out by Blood Moon. In fact, even a lot of 2-color, I think a lot of 2-color decks would get destroyed by Blood Moon. And then all of a sudden there'd be just a mass number of like 2-color or monocolor decks. Quite honestly, Blood Moon would be so oppressively strong if you ban fetch lands. The thing that makes Blood Moon awkward is because you can fetch out basics, basically neutering Blood Moon for the most part. Will Blood Moon actually completely take over the format? I don't know for sure, but this is my gut instinct that like no deck can play around Blood Moon very well. Like Utopia Sprawl, well, maybe Utopia Sprawl can do it. I guess decks with like Mana Dorks might have a little, maybe an edge. It's hard to tell because there's still a lot of removal for that. Yeah, Modern is fetch the format. Can you still fetch if Blood Moon is on the battlefield? No. You have to fetch before Blood Moon is on the battlefield. You have to get it off. Mr. Deadhead, please remember the older fetch lands as from Mirage, the Bad River. I know they came in tap, but they are great. That says well, yes. Pioneer, in my opinion, is a great place if fetch lands aren't for you. I'm a Modern player by default. If I was OG and had Power 9, I'd play Vintage. Magic Power is a blast, and fetches can channel sweet power moves. Okay, and as we talk about, we're going to talk all more about fetch lands, the nuances of them. But before that, we got to thank our sponsors here. Keep the lights running in this condo in Daytona Beach, Florida. I didn't really sell that we need the sponsor very well. But FusionGamingOnline.com, Unfinity. You want to pre-order your boxes of Magic the Gathering cards, you can go get a Unfinity from FusionGamingOnline.com. But don't forget to use coupon code Nikachu. We got coupon codes here, people. Where's my coupon code? Where are they? I know I'm missing everything. I'm not at home. This is not my usual studio. This is a very...
No, the Modern 3K.
Oh, yeah, I know I'm missing the Modern 3K. Modern 3K is awesome.
That's me on the right.
The Brothers War. Yeah. I guess so. I should be holding on a blue stone. Yeah, there's gonna be a Modern 3K at October. What is it? It's like tomorrow.
Yeah.
God damn it. I'm here in Florida. Too bad. Anyway, coupon code Nikachu at checkout, 5% off all your purchases. Also, Mana Traders. Premier place to rent Magic cards online. Rent any deck you want, any format. You don't like the Fetchlands? You can't afford Fetchlands? Rent them. You still don't like them? Go play Pioneer. You can do that with Mana Traders. Also, if you still don't like Pioneer, go play Pauper. You can support the channel using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or save 10% off your first 2 months using coupon code Nikachu_RUE. And now back to the discussion. Okay, Blood Moon. I think Blood Moon would be unbelievably powerful in a format where you ban the Fetchlands. And then you probably have to... And then now actual Modern players would be probably complaining about Blood Moon. But, like, look... I'm going to repeat again. The format is the format because of the Fetchlands, alright? So, like, if you say, like, the format's going to be better without Fetchlands, well, you're going to wipe out half of these... Oh, like, more than half of these decks. They're just going to, like, just crumble and die. But remember, Modern is the most popular format. People are playing this format because they like playing these decks. They like the utility. I mean, without the Fetchlands, this Indomitable Creativity deck would just die instantly because you can no longer fetch out that sort of dwarf mountain or whatever. It would become very domitable. Is that a word? Is indomitable the opposite of domitable? Huh? Yeah, dictionary.com. Fujin says there should be a wasteland that says something like destroy target land with 2 or more basic land types for Modern. That is interesting card design, to be honest. Oh, that is interesting. So force people to play with like those like dual lands that come into play tapped but don't actually have any land type. That is very, very interesting. And we got people like, hold on, we got Lord Magic is like, just ban effing Wrenn and 6 and get it over with. So yeah, there's a lot of people complaining about Fetchlands because like Wrenn and 6. But you know what's the problem? It's not the Fetchlands, it's actually just Wrenn and 6 in general. It didn't have to be 2 mana. What if it was 3 or 4 mana? It wouldn't see any play. It only sees play because it's 2 mana, and at that point, it's so relevant for killing creatures on the battlefield and also fixing your mana. If it was, let's say it was 3 mana, this card would be way worse, and I'll tell you why. Because if you keep a 2-land hand, if you mulligan to a 2-land hand with Wrenn and 6, and the Wrenn and 6 costs 3 mana, it's not guaranteed that you will hit that third land drop, and there go, hit your 4th land drop and your 5th land drop on curve. With Wrenn and 6, you only have to keep 2 lands, 1 Wrenn and 6, one of them has to be a fetch land, and you're good to go. So, there are some cards that are abused by Fetchlands, but they were badly designed cards in the first place. Wrenn and 6 is one of them. Deathrite Shaman? That was not a real card. That is not a real reasonable card. That was like a Fire Design-like card before Fire Design. They did not design this card for Standard. This card was designed for Legacy. It was meant to abuse Fetchlands, and they went too crazy with it. It could do too much. It's a Planeswalker on a creature for 1 mana that could be played off of green or black. This was not a reasonable card. We should not be like looking at Deathrite Shaman or Wrenn and 6 as examples to ban the Fetchlands. They were egregious cards in their own right. I just got here. Why are we banning Fetchlands? Because there was a Tolarian Community College video, not his opinion, but his video that the Fetchland, the #1 card to be banned in Modern should be the Fetchlands because of their power level and how much they warp the format. And a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon. A lot of people did, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Modern is Modern because of the Fetchlands. People love this format, and if you don't like it, go Pioneer's down the street. Pioneers, the Pioneer LGS is down the street. Go play in that tournament and, you know, leave us modern players alone. And I gotta defend the Fetchlands. And yes, they're powerful. I think they're very good. And there's other problems with Fetchlands. Technically, Fetchlands are the, like, most common source of cheating in Magic the Gathering tournaments, because anytime that you have to search your library or your opponent searches the library, somebody's gonna have access to their deck by shuffling it. And there's room for manipulation, I'll admit that. But don't ban the Fetchlands, ban the players. That would be my response to that there. The other Shaman was awesome. Now it's banned even in Legacy. Yes, it's banned in everywhere. What would happen if they do ban them? Then I think Blood Moon just takes over. I think Blood Moon just takes over the format. Yeah, and it would completely change the format. It would completely change it. It would be a shell of what it used to be. Magius is like, I'm all for mana consistency. I think there should be more tools against 5-color, though. So, okay, let's talk about the disadvantages of Fetchlands. There is a real cost to playing with Fetchlands that people don't like, that is somewhat getting ignored. The real cost of Fetchlands is that you are hammering your life total. This one life adds up, and you are going to be vulnerable to decks like Burn, which is actually one of the more popular decks right now. So the more Fetchlands, the more Shocklands that are played, the more powerful Burn gets to basically punish the people who want to be playing with greedy mana bases. So there is a very real cost to playing with Fetchlands, and if you get a Triome, which you can do at end of turn, then you're not playing to anything too powerful very early on in the game. You're not getting out on the board very early in the game. But if you want to go Fetch, Shock, go down to 17, and do it all over again on turn 2, go down to 13, well, I mean, a lot of people do that to me, and then I just kill them with my Merfolk creatures. You know, thank you for torching 33% of your life total, you idiot. But that is the cost of playing with Fetchlands, and a lot of the decks that get around that, things like Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. So so there is an argument, well, Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. You know, it's not the Fetchlands' fault. Sorry, a lot of people say it's the Fetchlands' fault that Uro got so strong, and you know what? I can agree to that. To some extent, but also Uro got banned. But also there's a second side to that story, and Uro just got banned everywhere. It's banned in Pioneer, and there are no Fetchlands in Pioneer. What about Explorer? What about Historic? What about Standard? Were there Fetchlands in Standard? No, there were no Fetchlands in Standard. Uro was not a reasonable card in the first place. Uro was a bannable card because it ramped you, gained 3 life, and you drew a card at the same time. Now, one thing that undermined the Fetchland downside is that Uro gained you 3 life. That was a big deal. So anytime that a card gains a lot of life, that usually gets around the disadvantage of playing Fetchlands. So the Uro decks could easily go 3, 4, 5 colors if they wanted to. And you can say the same thing about Omnath right now. Omnath, Locus of Creation. And yes, Landfall, it really abuses Fetchlands in this matter. But it meant to do it. I mean, they gave it 3 abilities for the Fetchlands. If you get rid of the Fetchlands, the 3rd ability might as well not even be on here. Basically becomes irrelevant. Uro didn't exist when Fetchlands were in Standard. Good memories. Let's discuss about Mystic Sanctuary then. I mean, that's totally fair. Mystic Sanctuary got broken because of Fetchlands, but like also they could have went Mystic Sanctuary. They didn't, like, it was a design mistake. Why did they make it an island? It didn't have to say island on it. They could have just said nothing, and it was an unfetchable land. Like, it was just a design mistake. It's not, I wouldn't say it's Fetchlands. I don't think it's the Fetchlands' fault. I don't think it's a Fetchland problem. They just should not have made Mystic Sanctuary an island. People argued about this like the moment it got printed. Why is it an island? Why can you fetch it out? Like, this is just abusable. It was completely unnecessary. So anyway, like stuff like especially Uro. Uro didn't get banned because of the Fetchlands. Uro got banned because it was an incredibly unreasonable card in the first place, and it got banned in every other format that didn't have Fetchlands. So we can't say that Fetchlands got Uro banned. We can just say Uro got Uro banned because it is a stupidly powerful card. We got Zim. Fetchlands make Modern more consistent. The more consistent the game is, the easier it is to play. I personally have liked Fetchlands because they have streamlined so many great decks. Yes, and a lot of people love those decks. People love the decks. They knew Sanctuary would be fetched when they designed it. That's on Wizards of the Coast. Absolutely. They needed Sam Black there to tell them. What are you, insane? It was like, I think the first pro to speak out against Mystic Sanctuary, like very early in spoiler season, was Sam Black. Like, why does Mystic Sanctuary have the island type? It's not like they're restricting design space. There's no point to this thing being an island. There's tons of utility lands out there that are not a land type. But I guess they wanted you to play multiple Mystic Sanctuaries maybe in Standard, and then like each Mystic Sanctuary would count itself or something like that. But anyway. Blorb or Lorb. If fetches weren't a thing, then you could print islands without having to need to analyze every word on the card. It's true. Okay. So you could say maybe there is some design space that could be restricted. But you know what? What's funny? Okay, what's another fetch land that we should put up? Marsh Flats. We haven't had that one.
Hearthstone have fetch lands?
They don't have lands at all. My brother just asked, does Hearthstone have fetch lands? And I said, they don't have lands. Nothing. In Hearthstone, your mana is free. Free to do whatever you want. Everyone wants the revised dual lands. Everyone wants to own those things because they are, you know, one of the best lands in the game. They're arguably the best land, one of the best lands in the game. But the best lands in the game are these lands, and we have access to them. We get to play them. They're not reserve list cards. And if you love powerful cards in Magic the Gathering history, and there should be a format for it that doesn't have reserve list cards like Legacy, which technically should eventually decline into nothingness like more or less Vintage does, it's Modern. Modern is going to be the premier non-rotating format of the world, and we want the most powerful cards. It's the fetch lands. It's a staple, just like how the reserved list revised dual lands are a staple to Legacy. The fetch lands are to Modern, and if you like those historic powerful lands, you like powerful decks, this is it. This is where we are. Yeah, it's free real estate in Hearthstone. Fetch lands cost $15 to $25, not $70-$90 like it was in the past. Reprint cons fetch lands in Lord of the Rings, and the price is not a problem. And the price is going down. Let's get back to stonks. MTGstonks.com, the most reliable source of stonks out there. Let's get actually no, we have Scalding Tarn here. This is a perfect example. See, they're reprinting the fetch lands, and it's going down. The price is going down. It used to be like $100, and now, even when Modern is popular, it's hot, everyone wants to play Modern, it's gone down to $32. That is a huge improvement. And one of the main arguments out there that I'm reading is like, fetch lands are okay. So like here's the conundrum of Modern players. So this is a very weird conundrum. So originally people were like, fetch lands are too expensive. Fetch lands are too expensive. We want them badly. Reprint fetch lands. Make them cheaper. Blah blah blah. All right. So Wizards of the Coast reprints the fetch lands. Price goes down. And now people are like, okay, now let's just ban the fetch lands. Like, what do you want? The price went down. They are technically affordable. I mean, if $30 is still too much, then it's still going to be too much for people at $10 and $5. Like, there's not a price too good for everybody. So right now they're at a very, very reasonable price compared to the past and compared to, like, you know, just mana bases of Yonder. Some people compare, like, some people make the argument, well, if I was trying to buy all the fetch lands and all the shock lands, well, what do you need them all for? You just play one deck. Most people are just buying into one deck. Just get the fetch lands you need for your deck. It's gonna be like $200 or something or less, and you're good to go. Oh, we got a super chat here. I love the super checks. Trevor Peebles. There are so many ways fetches can be utilized. All you need is synergy. Daniel says we should print Armageddon and other MLD into Modern. Change my mind. Only kind of kidding. I think you could print Armageddon in Modern, but I don't think people would like it very much. Oh man, Death and Taxes would be so good. No, just destroy all lands. 4 mana, boom, blow it all up. Death and Taxes would be all over that card. Just play an Ether Vial, get to 4 lands, Armageddon, and it'd be all over. Why we bring up this topic exactly is because the professor brought this up. Well, and also it blew up on Twitter. It blew up everywhere. People are defending it. People like the idea of banning the Fetchlands. Why do people want to ban the Fetchlands after the price went down? The price went down, people bought into the Fetchlands. Oh, now you want to ban them? I think there is I can't remember what it's called. There is this psychological term to describe people who want to justify their purchasing decisions. And so, like, let's say you buy something, then you like to watch content that verifies what you just bought. Like, hey, it's a great to verify, like, hey, this is the Fetchlands, or let's say you bought Fetchlands, you watch videos, Fetchlands are great, Fetchlands have a lot of utility. But then let's say you don't buy the Fetchlands, you play another format like Pioneer or Pauper. You might then watch videos that are like, Fetchlands are bad, they're too expensive, down with the Fetchlands, ban the Fetchlands. So I think a lot of people came out of the woodwork to try to bring validity to the fact that they did not buy into the Fetchlands. They moved on from Modern. And hey, I don't think Modern is for everyone. There was a lot of complaining about Modern for years. Price of the format, the cards are too stupid, ban the Tron lands. But ever since they created Pioneer, which is a very, let's say, like, more affordable format, less powerful format, less non-games, those complaints have disappeared. I don't hear anyone complaining about Modern in that regard anymore at all. I haven't heard anyone claim to, like, voice banning Urza's Tower for, like, ever since Pioneer was created. So, good for them. But if you're not playing Modern anymore, then you should not be speaking for Modern. I do think that I am a Modern authority, and I have to speak on behalf of the Modern players here. And we got to keep and I don't play with the Fetchlands, but I think we should keep the Fetchlands. Modern is fun. Yes, Modern is fun. Thank you very much, Braden Sorensen. We should actually give no Fetch Modern a whole month's try. No, well, I mean, I don't mind giving anything a try, but I don't think that's a good idea. Fujin, Fetch is part of the DNA of Modern, and the ban argument against Fetch is one that I think ignores the largest problems in Modern. They are still too expensive, but they enable interesting play. I don't, like, for me, prices, even I don't want to say $100 is reasonable for Fetchlands, but it's not revised dual land expensive, and Legacy was still pretty popular even when the dual lands were at $200 to $300 each. It's just when they hit like $500, $600, you know, that was the breaking point for people. I don't really like to argue on price because there's no price that's best for everybody. It's just an impossible argument because there's a lot of people who will not pay more than $5 for a single card. That's why they go play Pauper. No Fetch November. It's no Fetch November, people. Everyone play Mono Red, Obosh, what else? Merfolk, go play Death and Taxes, Amulet Titan, Ad Nauseum. No Fetch to represent no Fetch November. I argue for more Fetch hate. It's hard to hate on the Fetchlands, though, because it needs to be like a ley line or something, like ley line of no search. Ley line of no search. No one can search their library so long as this ley line is in play. Does that exist, by the way? And they probably have to tack it onto another ability that's a little bit more useful. Actually, that might be good by itself. Ley line of no search. Does that exist? That would be a really good sideboard card versus a lot of decks. I've been calling for Stifle for years. I thought they were for sure, and we need Stifle for not just the Fetchlands, but just for activated and triggered abilities. I've been calling for Stifle for forever, and people are like, "Oh, it would destroy the Fetchlands." Okay, well, if they're so powerful, we should actually have some counter to it. I think Stifle is a perfect card to have in Modern. And some people will make the argument, well, Murktide will get better. Who cares? Murktide is already a pretty good deck. I don't think it would go overboard. And people can use Stifle against the Murktide deck. Shadow of Doubt, baby. But that card is too clunky. It's just way too clunky. I thought for sure. I think the most free real estate in Modern right now is enter the battlefield abilities and triggered abilities. Or sorry, ETBs are triggered. Sorry, activated abilities and triggered abilities. I think that is complete free real estate in the Modern format. Maybe in Magic in general, there's not enough hate against that stuff. And I think Stifle is a perfect card. It's not like you draw a card off of it. It's not like Veil of Summer. You literally have to exchange one card for another card. You have to do it that way. And you don't get any bonus on top of that. Even mine says, no, but we need a ley line. So we don't have ley line of no search. Maybe that is design space that Wizards of the Coast should look into. So, how are fetches too expensive? Urza Saga is more than the fetches. Shocks are about the same, almost the price of almost the fetches. Are they? Are shocks that bad? Let's look at the shocks. Take a look at, I don't know, Steam vents. It's up there. Well, I'll get the full screen here. It's up there. It's like 18 bucks. It's not bad. Yeah, it's sort of up there. What's a reprinted fetch? Misty Rainforest. They reprinted the enemy dual lands. 27. How about Arid Mesa? There's some cheaper ones. Yeah, the fetches and shocks are on a little bit on par now. I mean, the fetches on average I think are more expensive, but yeah, it's not crazy. It's not crazy. Dustin Barnes, I'm not as familiar with the modern meta. What is graveyard hate like in the current state of things? Oh, there's tons of graveyard hate. There's enough graveyard hate that if you wanted to beat up a graveyard deck, they have no chance. So we got Grafdigger's Cage, we got like a Tormod's Crypt, Relic of Progenitus, Surgical Extraction, Fairy Macabre, Leyline of the Void, which is very popular. Endurance, a big one. Oh my god, Endurance is the most insane. Probably the most insane of all the insane cards. Graveyard hate. Yeah. Oh, Rest in Peace. Yeah, I totally forgot about Rest in Peace for some reason. Hearse is new one. If you want to beat up graveyard decks, they get beaten up. So the graveyard. If you are a graveyard player in Modern, you gotta have a second deck when the graveyard hate comes out, because you'd be screwed. Okay. So Daniel says there is tech against fetches. The new artifact Karn Silex. Yeah, but it's gotta be good enough to see play in Modern. And like, especially with Fetchlands, see, the thing about Fetchlands is they're online on turn 1. So you go fetch, get basic lands, get your shock land, whatever you need, you're gonna have it within the first 2 turns. So the hate against Fetchlands needs to be cheap. It needs to be stifle levels of cheap, where if you're on the play, you can hit their turn 1 fetch, or if you're on the draw, at least you can hit their turn 2 fetch, or put the fear into them, because the deal is if you go fetch land pass against any random deck, then they might go turn 1 island or even a fetch land, and then you're like, do I fetch? Because then they could go response fetch, get a blue source, and then stifle me. So it might force people to fetch on their turn, making their deck a little bit more clunky. Wesley, honestly, wants to make Modern cheaper and more reasonable. Ban Modern Horizons 1 and 2. Those 2 sets have completely changed the Modern metagame. I think the true answer is not banning expensive cards, reprinting them is the answer. If you're talking about things like Fury and Endurance, yes, they're Ren and 6. Well, Ren 6 will probably get axed at one point. But let's take Fury, for example. Very expensive card. Very hard to access this card. The real solution, which benefits both the players and Wizards of the Coast at the same time, is just print more of this stuff. It's always the answer, is reprint more. Ashiok. Ashiok is a great answer. Ashiok Dream Render. Great answer to fetch lands, but the problem is it's too slow. Too slow. Like I said again, if you want to punish the fetch lands, which is why Blood Moon doesn't really punish the fetch lands. Blood Moon is a great hate card against lands and stuff like that, but doesn't do the job versus fetch lands most of the time. Blood Moon, because the fetch lands can fetch basic turn 1, fetch basic turn 2. Okay, your Blood Moon's useless, and even Crashing Footfalls, a 3-color deck, is playing with Blood Moon. Like, hello, Blood Moon is a smidge too slow. So at 3 mana, it's a bit too slow. I think at 2 mana, fetch land hate is a bit too slow. It has to be at 1 or 0 mana. They need to make a leyline of the no search. Leyline of the anti-fetch. The leyline of no fetch. A-Dog. Split second. Lands lose all non-land abilities until end of turn. I don't think that would do anything after they've activated their ability. Pithing Needle. Yep. Pithing Needle. Name a card type. Activated abilities of all card. They need to make a new Pithing Needle where activated abilities of all card types lose abilities. Witherfang with the super chat. Thank you so much, Witherfang. I really... 50 sec! I believe that's, this... Hold on, what is it? The Swedish something crowns. Or krona. Let's make a poll if Stifle should be legal in Modern or not. Alright, hold on. Let's see if I can... okay, well... Okay, you want to make a poll? Okay, we can make a poll. Stifle, let's get Stifle on the table here. Where's Stifle? Where is my Stifle? I think it should be definitely a part of Modern. I think it should have been a part of Modern a long time ago. I think it's a Modern-like card. I think cards like Uro and even Crocs and the rest of them would be in a worse spot if... Or maybe... I don't know about... Actually, maybe I don't know about the creatures. Oops. Not really prepared to get to the... control room. Need to find the poll station. All right, let's make a poll. Start a poll. Should we have Stifle? Yes. No. Huh?
Should Merfolk be banned in Zendikar?
Stifle should have multiple functional reprints. We have some, but like the problem is, like I don't think that they should push Stifle any more than being a 1-drop as it is, and like tacking on more abilities on Stifle I think is a little bit icky. Like I don't want them to like add card draw to Stifle, then it becomes something like Veil of Summer. I don't think you need to add more to Stifle, but the problem is if you make it 2 mana and there's 2 mana Stifles that draw cards, I think at that point it becomes basically unplayable because they're not playable right now. They're very, very poor. I think the best one is the one that Aspiring Spike plays a lot. Has a little bit more agency to the game. Gavin, rock with the super chat. Tails End. Oh, that's the one I was talking about. Thank you very much. I was trying to think about Tails End. So maybe this is a way to do it. You just tack on more stuff at 2 mana. Tails End is so not playable, but I still love it. 2 mana Stifle that can do other things. No, Aspiring Spike's played this card a million times. He loves this card and has proven that it is playable. Maybe this is a way that you can add more Stifle effects. It's like for 2 mana, like maybe we should make it blue, Stifle something and counter, like, I don't know, non-creature spells. Like make a super negate. Counter triggered and activated abilities and also counter non-creature spells for a blue and a blue. So it's like negate plus Stifle married into one. Negate 1 blue mana. Stifle 1 blue mana. Together, double blue mana. Fair? Who knows? Let's make it happen. Stifle plus card draw is from Stifle is from Tempest. No, but it's not 1 mana, right? Because otherwise I would have heard about it. Trick Bind. So that's another problem. Trick Bind. So now this is like, how do we beat the Fetchlands? The truth is you can't. Like I said, you need to be online by turn 1 or turn 0. And in Modern, we don't have Stifle, and Stifle is the only playable one that could do it. All these other cards are like if you're on the draw with Trick Bind, it's just not good enough. Your opponent will fetch and fetch again, and then like Trick Bind does nothing. Yeah, Squelch. Again, 2 mana card. Squelch! This is only activated abilities, not triggered abilities, so it's like even harder to use. A lot of people have tried these cards. They just don't work. If you're on the draw with this stuff, it's unplayable. It's just unplayable. They're just dead cards in your hand. Very, very dead cards. Repudiate is better than Trick Bind. I like Repudiate. I like that card. It's just hard to build a deck versus it. Stifle versus Ren Insects? Yes, please. Oh, yeah, that would be good. Maybe we need... Oh, I don't know what we need. But I'm defending... Oh, okay, so what other points I wanted to have, huh?
Flavor text this card explains how useless it is.
Oku Doku had gone through all motions, the same Aki curse worlds, the same ingredients with their horrid stink, the same rude gestures, yet not a person died. It really actually sounds like an AI generated flavor text. Not gonna lie, it doesn't sound like a human wrote this. Gavin says, oh wait, this just makes the black-white ephemerate decks better, right? Stifle the evoke trigger. But it can work the other way around, where you can stifle their ability and they still have to pay for the evoke. Actually, it's not as good as you would think. So like, because they already have ephemerate, right? So the evoke, the the elemental decks already have Ephemerate, which blinks the creature, which so they don't have to worry about the evoke thing, and they get another get another Ephemerate because of the rebound. So Ephemerate's actually way better than Stifle, but you can't use Ephemerate on other people's creatures. So actually having Stifle in the format, let's just get a Stifle again. So having Stifle in the format is good versus the elementals, because let's say they pitch to play an elemental. Let's say Fury. I can counter the deal damage trigger, but the evoke trigger, the sack evoke trigger will still go on the stack. So they don't get any ability, and they just get 2 for 1. You don't really want to use Stifle. You can counter the evoke trigger, but it'll be like a sort of a garbage version of Ephemerate. It would just be a worse Ephemerate overall. I guess it's an Ephemerate that you could use against your opponent's elementals, but it wouldn't be that great. Gustavo, maybe an artifact that makes all lands ETB as tapped lands, if not ETB from hand. Maybe for 1 mana. I don't think it's good enough, though. Like, you also slow yourself down and you just threw away a card. Unless you put, like, draw a card on top of it, but then maybe it'll get broken in an artifact deck. Which decks want to run Stifle? It's not a terribly usable card in most decks. Control decks. So control decks would use them. Control any tempo deck. I guarantee you Murktide would use it. Maybe Merfolk. I would be interested in a card like this. It'd be like a relatively good card versus like I would want to play that against Seasoned Pyromancer. I would want to play that again. Maybe I'm pretty sure I'd want to play against Seasoned Pyromancer. I definitely would want to play it against Fury, 100%. What else? Actually, maybe it might be awkward, to be honest, in Merfolk. It might be awkward. I can't tell. But its existence, pushing a particular tempo deck to the top, would put a beating on the Fetchlands currently in Modern. You can stifle binding. Yeah, you can stifle binding. I'm telling you right now, like Amulet Titan. The one thing that made Amulet Titan so strong was the fact that there is just no good hate, or very little good hate versus ETBs. ETBs and activated abilities are just free real estate in Modern. You just can't do anything about it. Oh, we got a super chat. Kyle Driver, thank you very much. Sorry I'm late. Howdy, howdy, howdy. So what happened on this poll? I actually have no idea. Yes won, basically. We want Stifle in Modern. Okay, let's make another poll. Do you like the Fetchlands? Do we want Fetchlands in Modern or not? This is the real poll. Do we want Fetchlands in Modern? Yes. No. That's the real one. That's the real poll. Death by Tech would be, I'd totally play Stifle in my Merfolk deck. So the only decks that could have an answer to Fetchlands are blue decks. The other any blue-based decks. The other colors can go screw themselves. No, they're not necessarily. The idea is you at least put more of these types of cards in the format. And by the way, most of the multicolored decks would be using the Fetchlands, right? So if you want to go in the direction of playing 3, 4, 5 color decks, maybe you'd use Stifle, but maybe not. You'd be the ones that want to be using the Fetchlands. Like, there's 2 types of decks: the ones that want to use the Fetchlands and the ones that don't. Although I understand you can use Stifle in a Fetchland deck. You'd be surprised how good Stifle is. I know how good Stifle is. It is a very good card. But if we want to address the power level of Fetchlands, there's Stifle. And we can print more effects like this. This is just a good start. This is a very good start. Like I said, we should make a ley line of the no fetch, or a ley line of the no search. Like, you can't tutor while this effect is in play, and it could be a white ley line. It would make a whole lot of sense to me. It would also, and also Stifle would be very good versus Urza Saga, I think. Well, maybe not very good, because you'd only hit one of the chapters. But, I mean, if they really needed something, then you could do it. Confounding Conundrum is good against fetches. It's actually not. Let's read Confounding Conundrum. The problem is, they can do it on your turn. So when Confounding Conundrum enters the battlefield, draw a card. That's good. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to its owner's hand. So if they needed the land immediately, so there's two problems with this card. First off, it's 2 mana, which on the draw is too late. It's too slow, won't do anything. But let's say you're on the play, you play Confounding Conundrum. In response to Confounding Conundrum, they can just fetch. Or, in the future land drops, they can play a fetch land, pass the turn, fetch, and then interact on your turn. Because if they fetch on your turn, it's a whole new turn. Like, that's the first land I've played this turn. Like, what are you looking at me for? Read your own card. You know, it can come into play untapped. So there's a lot of room, especially with fetch lands, because you can fetch at instant speed to play around Confounding Conundrum. A creature with a stifle effect and flash, but it's got, well, it could be, you know what? I mean, if there's a 2-mana creature, that might be acceptable. That might work. So a lot of people are just coming up with some ideas. Witherfang's like a blue and maybe blue and 2 for X and Stifle could work. You spend 2 life to cast it for a blue. Yeah, you mean like it's like it's like 2 mana, but you pay a blue and then you Frexing yourself for the other blue? Maybe. Kevin Chapman, couldn't you stifle Urza Saga's ability that puts a counter on it, then no counter, then with no counter Saga dies? You could, you could delay the Urza Saga, so you could counter the ability that puts a counter on it for Chapter 3, so you have like another Chapter 2 for another turn. Dustin Barnes, thanks so much for the super chat. Before you leave, hope you have a cup on me. Thank you so much, Dustin. I appreciate it.
He doesn't like Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
But I love their service. I'm not going to talk about it publicly, but let's just say I was at a Dunkin' Donuts the other day. I was there all day. The coffee is just terrible. It tastes watered down. It sort of did the job after a few hours, but their service was really nice. They were really nice people to me. So 2+, oh, and they have coconut donuts, so I'll give them that. I like the coconut donuts. Made up for the just god-awful coffee that they have. But honestly, everyone has god-awful coffee. My standards are too high at this point. Doesn't Pithing Needle help the situation? No, because you like, let's say they have like, okay, so a lot of people are talking about Pithing Needle. Okay, so Pithing Needle, you can play for 1 mana. As enters the battlefield, choose a card name. So let's say someone has Misty Rainforest out. You name Misty Rain. So like, what's going to end up happening is if you play Pithing Needle, you cast and they have Misty Rainforest out, they're just going to, on the stack, fetch with their Misty Rainforest, get a land, and then that's it. They'll let you do whatever you want with your Pithing Needle. You literally, it doesn't work because, well, yeah, they can just fetch in response. You have to basically Pithing Needle in the blind on turn 1, but you don't know what fetch land they have, and that's why you actually should diversify your fetch lands. If you only have, like, you should diversify your fetch lands as much as you can in your deck to always play around a blind Pithing Needle. It's very, very rare. You got a super chat? I thought I got your super chat. It was on you, right? Oh, Egoish, sorry. Archive Trap and other colors and strategies. Thank you so much, Egoish, for your super chat. Archive Trap. Oh, by the way, Archive Trap, like, it's only, we mean other strategies. You mean like mill, like literally one strategy. Literally in one strategy, Archive Trap. Whoa! This poll is actually not so heavy as I thought it would be. Oh, do we want fetch lands in Modern? Only 65% say yes, 35% say no. There's actually a lot of pushback on that's actually way more pushback than I thought there would be. Way more pushback than I thought there would be. That's actually quite enlightening. I appreciate everyone for their honest opinion. That's the problem. They fetch in response, which is why I'm waiting to hear a red, black, white, or green answer to fetches for mono/multicolored decks that don't use blue. Or not. Maybe there's an artifact. You can't search a library. Does such a thing exist for 1 mana? Players can't search a library? Maybe they could make something like that. 1 mana, draw a card. Would that be broken? Could an artifact deck break that? Players can't search their library anymore. Because that's pretty punishing, and tutors are broken. We could admit that tutors are really strong, and technically fetch lands are zero mana tutors with a 0 mana activated cost. Jay Rafal says, I love a Nikachu coffee tech talk on stream. Tech? What about like Apple or Microsoft or Google products or something like that. Tech. Not a tech YouTuber. I wouldn't mind just talking out of my butt about it though. Silence, but for searching libraries. I guess they could do it. I would say white has a lot of room to have design space for, like it seems like a white thing to restrict people from searching their libraries, so I would not be surprised if they do something like that. Trevor Peebles, here's for some better coffee. I'm off to get my mocha. Have a nice day. Thank you so much, Trevor. I really appreciate it. Make sure I should do more of these. Hey guys, if you support with the super chats, we'll have more news discussions like this. Everyone's like, where's the news discussion? Well, because not many people watch them for very long. And I got like almost no super chats. Looks like on these heated debates though, there is room for this talk. Interesting though. I have to admit. So if I get this, how do I pop the chat out? Pop out chat. I want to share with everyone. This is a really enlightening. Oh, but I can't go. Why you don't move? Oh, it's taking up the whole screen. I can't do it. It's too hard. But anyway, if anyone live is watching, you'd notice that there's about 65% are for yes, or sorry, actually it's decreasing. Only 60% are actually in favor of the. Only 60% are in favor of Fetchlands and Modern. It's interesting how low. I'd be very curious to know how many of you are dedicated Modern players. Maybe a lot of you have moved on to Pioneer. But if you're all Modern players, you still hate the Fetchlands. That's interesting. Rating AI-generated cards. Well, we did that the other day. I would have super chatted, but YouTube kept canceling my super chats. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Have you super chatted enough? It's like a gambling addiction. It's like, have you super... I mean, I guess that makes some sense. They may not want people to, like, dump their whole wealth. Yeah. To the streamers. The amazing well is, like, I don't hate fetches, I hate Renin 6. And Renin 6 is in trouble. Like, Renin 6 is gonna... I don't want to put too much weight into this. Like, I hate these days saying, "Oh, we gotta ban this card," because I have too much weight. I have too much influence here. But like, if I say something like, "Oh, ban Ren 6, ban Urza Saga, ban this," it could end up happening tomorrow. Just like Mox Opal happened. Well, maybe Mox Opal didn't happen quickly, but I definitely helped spur put attention that Mox Opal was a problem at a time that no one thought Mox Opal was a problem whatsoever. But Renin 6, I think Renin 6 will eventually meet the same fate as Oko. Because Renin 6 is just going to find its way in more and more decks. And yes, if technically Fetchlands didn't exist, Renin 6 probably doesn't exist. But Fetchlands exist. So it's going to be a trouble. Renin 6 is pretty clearly an issue. They know about it from Wrecking Legacy. But that's only because of Wasteland. Like, outside of that, they didn't care about Renin 6. Time to make Manaless Dredge the top deck and make lands obsolete. Save Renin 6! So James Lincoln says, I'm an Omnath player, and I think Omnath is way more of a problem than Ren is. Well, from our perspective, Ren is more of a problem. You know, my biggest problem with Renin 6 is like it makes mulligans obsolete, and also like my opponents can never miss land drops. Like it's hard to kill a Renin 6 in one turn because the loyalty goes up to 4, and like any reasonable early game creatures can't kill a Renin 6. It's just impossible. So Ren will at least get 2 lands out of the deal, and also so Renin 6 is effectively 2 mana, put 2 land drops onto the battlefield. And gain probably at least 4 life, or maybe at least 5 life. It's basically how, that's basically what Ren and 6 says. Ren and Stimpy. Danny Waters, Ren 6 doesn't bother me. What deck do you play that doesn't bother you? I can also say as a creature-based deck, like Merfolk, I can't play with 1 toughness creatures. I gotta be really careful, because if I do, Renin 6 is just gonna kill them, and then they're gonna die. Blorb, think about this. What deck that plays red-green doesn't want Renin 6? Yeah, exactly. Basically every single one. Decks go out of their way to play Ren and 6. Decks will splash the green. Decks will splash the red to make sure that they have Ren and 6. They go out of their way. Okay, so when we have any super chats, Kyle Driver, I just play Commander/Arena. I just like your content. Thanks so much, Kyle Driver. I had no idea. Kyle Driver, I think you've been around since the beginning. I had no idea that you're just dominantly a Commander and Arena player. I would have always thought that you're a Modern player. And we have another super chat, Dustin Barnes. Thank you so much. Call me cynical, but all I hear from Modern players is, "Well, I want to win games in a competitive format with my non-competitive deck. I don't know." You're totally right, Dustin. You're 100% right. That is exactly the Modern players. That's how they've been since the dawn of time. Another thing is, they might have also had a winning deck, and then it becomes unplayable because of a banning, a big meta shift, new cards get printed, and they're like, ban the new cards that made my deck bad now. No one likes playing with like a tier 2 or tier 3 deck. And you know what? You can play with a tier 2 or tier 3 deck. If you want to always play with a tier 1 deck, that's not how Magic works. And again, with the super chat, Gavin Rook, $5. Wizards needs to stop being cowards. Give us cards like Hymn to Turok in Modern and Dark Ritual. I don't know about that one, but Wizards of the Coast, give us stuff. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. We do this Monday to Friday. 8 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time, and be there or be square. Thank you very much for everyone who supports with memberships and super chats. Love it so much. It lets me know that we got to keep doing this even when I'm on vacation. You have no idea what I've done in order to keep this thing going. I got the microphone, I got the computer, I got all the audio equipment, I've got all these cords hanging out everywhere. But most importantly, thank you for being here, being part of the conversation, being part of the experience. Because without you guys, I don't have a show. I'd just be talking to myself for basically an hour, and it's not nearly as exciting. We need that back and forth. We need the ideas. You guys are the hive mind of the coffee crew. You are the coffee crew, and the crew, I can't do anything without you guys. So, as usual, keep brewing up those coffees, and we will keep brewing up the magic. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you at the next cup.